I used to wish and pray for a broken bone so that I too could have the attention. Hey, I'm Alex.
And I'm Faiven.
And welcome to Let's Talk About It.
If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. Also, we want to hear from you, so comment below during the video.
Today we are talking about all the ways that we romanticize the things that are missing from our lives.
Yes, especially on social media, everyone's lives sure do seem magnificent, doesn't it? So let's talk about it. But first, rapid fire.
What do you think you'll miss the most about being single?
Not needing to check in with anyone when I make decisions daily. What do you tell your teenage daughter when she asks for a material thing that her friend has?
We are actively going through this now. You should see her birthday list. I'm trying to convince her that I don't think she really wants those things. It's not working, so check back in. What is a common stressor you hear from your friends that are married or have kids?
That their husbands do not pull their share of the weight.
What are you looking forward to most in a marriage?
Having my forever plus one, my ride or die, like a bestie, a pillow talk person, just knowing that someone will be there for every aspect of life. What is your favorite family tradition now that you're married?
So a tradition that I want to start is I want us to go on vacations during the holidays. Kind of like what you had said a while back about having experiences and making it more than just gifts. We're working towards that. When is the last time you experienced jealousy?
It's hard for me to pinpoint when, but it was definitely during a dry spell when it came to work, like bookings wise. And I would see online that people are on set working, and I'm like, why didn't I get that audition?
Understandable.
Have you ever been jealous of your siblings?
Yes. My older sister used to always get different gifts because she was older, and then me and the younger would get the same gift because we were a year apart, and I hated it. What's on your bucket list before settling down?
Visible abs.
Okay.
Because since I'm older, I'll probably start having kids right after I get married. And so my body's already gonna change. So I, for some reason, have this idea of being really lean before I change my body again.
Just once. You just want to see a speck of an ab, just say you did it, and then you're good.
Yeah, kind of.
Take a picture for the proof and move on.
Yep. Okay, so I know that comparison and the comparison trap happens across every category, but what comes up a lot is relationships, specifically single versus taken. So I'm gonna just go ahead and start. Some of y'all boyfriends is trash and some of y'all husbands is trash. I am single and I be hearing the stories.
Okay, came in swinging for sure. Would you please unpack?
Yes, so as a single person who really wants a partner, I sometimes, I see the pictures, I hear the stories, I see the home videos, and I'm like, oh, where's my person? But a lot of times when you get together with your girlies, the girlies be like, my husband, he don't do nothing. He come home from work and he just drinks a beer. And here I am working full time in the office and then coming home and like I have to deal with the kids and he don't do nothing. And I'm like, ooh, child. In that case, I'd rather be by myself if I'm going to partner with somebody who's not pulling their weight. And other things, you know, people deal with cheating and just undesirable, less than pleasant traits from a partner. So when it comes to comparison, I stop comparing myself to single versus taken because the grass is not always greener even when you're taken.
Yeah. So what I discovered through, dating and then being a newlywed and, that whole journey is, like we romanticize a lot of things, right? Like we know that. So you might, and let me just stop saying you, right? I'm gonna speak for myself. I had built up this fantasy of what I would walk into when I came home because I have been away and I'm not always out of the home working, but like when the occasional job pops up, I go to New York and then I come back. And in my mind, I have been out of the home now. So I'm going to come in and there might be a clean house. There might be fresh food. The kids will be lined up. Oh, mommy, we missed you so much. And, my husband is just going to take me into his arms. And like, yeah, I wanted to be acknowledged. I wanted to know that I was missed. All of that is fine and normal. But I romanticized it a little bit. I put a little razzle dazzle on it when the reality is, all right, if you were outside of the home that day, that means that your husband is now the default parent, the primary caretaker, and he has to handle the dog, and he has to get food on the plate. So the second that you walk in the door, maybe at that exact moment, the last thing that he's thinking about is whining and dining you, and he is actually so happy to end his shift. You've also been on a shift, but a different shift. So now maybe a fight ensues about who's had the harder day or who's worked harder. And I'm in my feelings because I wanted to be greeted with a hug and showered with, I don't know, freaking grapes. I don't know. But when you are scrolling now and you're seeing all these gestures that are so far removed from reality, it's easy to get upset. When in fact, sometimes you just have to accept that your expectations in that moment could have been a little unreasonable. Does that mean I have a bad husband? No. Does that mean I'm a bad wife? No. But sometimes we have to meet our own needs first before we can then meet the needs of this fantasy our partner has created in their minds.
That was quite the monologue.
But I know my married people, I know you guys are with me.
So how do you feel about like the Nara Smiths and the other like stay at home, like perfect wives who are dressed well, trad wives I think they're called, and they cooking everything from scratch? For me, when I see them, especially the cooking part, since I am a home chef myself, I know how messy that can be and how involved that is. So I don't really buy into the delulu there, that they have it all together and get it done so quickly, because I'm like, I know that took all day and you planned for this entire day to shoot this content, to bake this from scratch, because it's not, oh, I woke up early and I went to the gym and I cleaned the whole house and I reared the children and I made love to my husband and I put on a full face and now I'm cooking dinner. And no, all you did was cook the one meal, because I literally know how long it takes.
But I think that you and I have realistic expectations and understandings of that because we work behind the curtain, we see behind the curtain all the time. So I'm not upset. I just watched the videos knowing it was staged. My husband and I watched a video of Nara the other day and I laughed because he's also newly cooking and in the kitchen, and she was wearing something white and something frilly and it was beautiful. And as she goes to squeeze the lemon into whatever she made from scratch, he was like, I know that spilled on her dress because when I be squeezing lemons. And so I loved that he could also recognize this is not realistic. Like, cooking is so messy. I tried to make some muffins from scratch the other day and they taste like rocks. My toddler wouldn't even eat them. So how do I feel about that? She's entertaining to watch, but she is not my wife goals.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
But outside of relationships though, what else do you think people compare the most?
I feel like in this stage of our lives, people are comparing whether you are buying or renting. Do you have a home? Have you had kids yet? You know,
so adulting,
yes,
essentially.
Yes.
Or traditional adulting.
Yes.
I know my parents are always like, oh, I can't believe everyone's still renting. That's like such a waste of money, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you also bought your house for 50 cents. You know, like, times is hard. Not everyone has like a gazillion dollars for a down payment and then enough of a monthly income to do the mortgage payments every month. So even I know some people who are high earners, like people in the medical field and such, and they're choosing apartment life because they're like, yeah, I don't have to mow any grass. I already have 12-hour shifts at the hospital. Like, my partner and I talked this out. Maybe later in life, when we decide to have kids, we might get a house so that they can play in the yard. But right now, maintenance takes care of everything. So I think discernment is really important when you are deciding on your options.
Yeah.
And outside options, like, or what other people have decided, should not weigh into your decision. It should be you versus you in the two different scenarios, because you never know what's up with someone. Even somebody might be your same age, got married at the same time, is pregnant at the same time, and then you are renting and they're just put down a down payment on their first home. you don't know what their family history is like. What if they had a trust fund forever? What if their grandfather set them up and as a wedding gift gave them a down payment for their house?
Yeah.
So, like, you can't change your circumstance. So what is the point of comparison?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely found myself going down that rabbit hole, especially as my husband and I are having these conversations around home buying. I didn't realize how much insecurity I had because there's just so little that I know about what goes into the home buying process. And, you know, again, I don't know if I'm necessarily seeing more of it. I feel like, you know, when you're starting to think about stuff or you're thinking, okay, I need a new car, now all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. I feel like that's what's happening to me. It's like, since I am thinking about home buying, since me and my husband are talking about renting versus buying, now all of a sudden all of our friends or the people that we follow that have bought homes is like at the forefront of my mind. And I'm like, how do they know what to do? Like, they seem so efficient. Whether it's coming from the interior, the decorating, their gardening, and I'm like, okay, was I spending my 20s the wrong way? They're over here building shelves and counters from scratch. Screw the cereal and the Naras. They are building their child's nursery from scratch, and I'm like, Joe, we're gonna have to outsource. Like, I'm not this handy. Like, are you this handy? Like, what are we about to do? So yeah, I've been comparing a lot of home buying stuff lately.
I consume a lot of that content, but more for inspo for the future. Like, I'm like, okay, if I do end up with a house outside of an apartment living situation, like I do cook, so I'd love a nice big kitchen, for example. Like, so you want an island separate from the overhead hood thing and whatever. So it's like, it just helps me imagine what I want, but I don't feel any envy or negativity that other people have had it, because again, what's the point?
I'm jealous of how easy it looks. And I know it's probably not easy for them either, because they're not necessarily pulling the curtain all the way back, but it just seems like everybody else already knows what to do. And I'm like, how? Like, who taught you this stuff?
Girl, fake it till you make it. I mean, even professionally, there's so much comparison to be made, especially in entertainment. Like, when I did my first union stage play, like, did you go to that one? Were you in town for that? The Bigot?
Yep.
Yeah. It's not the best. I'm glad it was a play, not recorded.
It was with the white girl, the lesbian.
But anyway, it was my first play, like Actors Equity. I was a principal performer. There's only 4 of us in the whole cast, so we all had several pages to memorize. And I had never done a play as an adult. I did plays when I was like 11, but I was like, oh man, how do I do this? So I was comparing myself to the skills of the other actors because they were older than me and more seasoned, and I was coming from the commercial world and they were coming from the theater world. So even when we were all hanging out with each other, they would be talking about plays that they saw recently and so-and-so writer, and I didn't know anything. And I was comparing myself to their skill and then their knowledge in the theater world, and it just made me feel bad. But I'm like, why am I doing this? I still got cast in the play. I still got accolades and praises for a job well done, but only because I had a different background. I was comparing myself, making it more miserable for myself when I didn't need to do that. It just added an extra layer that I had to get through when I already had to learn a bunch of lines, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, this episode is called Different, Not Greener, and that's exactly what it is. Like, we just had different backgrounds. It didn't make their backgrounds any more better than mine. In fact, maybe they liked my approach to the character because of my background and because I wasn't so strict in theater.
Yeah. I think our industry, like, you can't help sometimes but feel a type of way when you're walking into a room where everybody looks like you, because the casting call maybe said big curly hair, great smile, and you're like, oh man, these are all the best versions of myself in one room, and I better bring my A game or I will be replaced. And then if I don't get the job, does that mean I wasn't good enough? Or does that mean that, you know, this role just wasn't for me? And on a good day, you are able to talk yourself up and distinguish between the two. Like, no, I'm still a good actor. I still know how to model. This just wasn't a right fit. But on a bad day, when those negative thoughts are wearing you down, you're like, no, this is it. I'm terrible. I may as well just pack it up and leave New York. I'm I'm not meant to do this. I have struggled with that for years, you know, as a model. Like when you don't get a job or when you have a dry spell for a long time, you're like, my career is over. I don't know why I even thought I could do this. But yeah, I guess we just kind of, I don't know if there's a secret answer as to what we did to overcome that. We just kind of stayed the course and had other friends that we could pour into that shared in the struggle. What would you say was the trick to getting out of that mindset?
I think the trick was us leaning into what we knew we were good at versus just weighing so heavily on what we weren't. Like, for example, yesterday you did a self-tape with me. So Alex helped me film a self-tape for a commercial audition, and there was a lot of action and there was lines in it and whatever, and we did it so quickly, done and done. And we were just laughing at the fact that maybe lines are not Alex's strong suit.
Ain't no maybe.
So I know I'm really good at learning lines quickly. She knows she's really good at modeling and posing. I can't pose to save my life. I only book print ads because it'd be like shoulders up and they like my cheekbones and my hair. But like if it's full body, you might see the final image, but it took 300 frames to get the final image. All 300 of her frames can go to print. So it's more about leaning into your strengths than it is kicking yourself for not being great at something. And that's what's helped me. Like I can tell even when I get new agents, I'm like, hey guys, so these are my strengths. These are what I go out for. This is what I book the most, blah, 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 blah. Because I know myself.
Yeah.
And like I think that's the best way to do it because we are different people.
Yeah. I think it's very easy for people to romanticize what we do because they see, like you said, the final frame, but maybe not all the other 300 that it took to get there. So when they see that you're in an editorial or that you got to do this really cool job for this big name company, they're envious. They're like, oh man, your life must be so much fun. What they don't see is that maybe for 3 months you didn't book anything, or the other client that you had paid you directly. So even though you're getting paid for this job, now in addition to the taxes and the 20% commission, now your agent has to take out money from the other job because that money wasn't taken out yet. Oh wait, you have the website fees, you didn't pay those. And like there is so much that comes out of your check when you are essentially an independent contractor. So if you are also not well versed in managing your money, like it's crazy. I felt like I was making more when I was making less, and I think that's just because I was making so little that Uncle Sam was like, nah baby, you keep it. But now that I'm making more, it's like they're just taking more. Also, I have more kids and we have more family goals that we're setting, so I'm just like, man, how was I happier with less? And now I'm making more and I sometimes still feel like I'm scrambling. And that is sometimes the roller coaster and behind the scenes that comes with this creative life. But you don't see none of that. You just see the pretty picture.
Yeah, you don't see any of it at all. I remember saying out loud on a set once, when is the glamorous part supposed to happen? Because it'd be cold, it'd be 12-hour days, like there's a lot of waiting, like say you're not the only talent on set, like you're the first scene of the day, and then you have to go chill and occupy yourself while they shoot 2 other people, then they go back to you for a close-up of maybe you're just your hand, then they go back, redo your makeup because you have another scene, and it's like 12 hours, so you have to wake up at 5 a.m. in order to get an Uber at 6 a.m. to get to set by 6:30, then you're there till 6:30 p.m., and then I remember this happened on the recent commercial of mine. I had acting class after, like scene study, that it wouldn't have been right to skip because I had a scene partner and then they would not have been able to work out their scene and get the feedback and then grow as an actor. So I had to show up and I did. And then, so that was like a 15-hour day. And it was very tiring. So I was like, where's the glamour here?
Yes.
So you definitely, like comparing yourself to a working actor, yeah, of course you want the booking and you want the money that eventually comes, less taxes and commission and everything, whatever is left that you get. But it's still work.
Yeah.
It's still hard. And there's easier ways to make money too, and steadier ways. And I have a friend who's actually in California. She and I met on the set of a Bacardi commercial has to be 10 years ago at this point. So she was in New York. Now she's LA based. And she's like, I had a callback for one of those Jennifer Garner Capital One commercials. And I'm like, oh, good for you. Because if you get a callback, that means you did great. You might not book it because they want like a redhead or somebody older or whatever. So it has nothing to do with you. But that means they loved your performance regardless. And then they want to see you again. And then they'll decide on who the cast is. But she shared with me that the fire went out. Like, she's just not interested in doing commercials anymore or on camera work. Because I work freelance events in the city in between doing things on camera, and she works for a really cool nonprofit about end of life and hospice type things. It's like they interview older people and they help a lot of older people and people in end of life. And she just really cares about the spiritual world and people. So it just didn't bring her joy anymore, just doing these auditions and whatever. So the fact that she wasn't excited about a callback is really telling, because we love callbacks.
Oh yeah,
it's so close to the booking. But she was like, "Yeah, I think I'm all set." And I was like, "Wow, that's a very powerful realization to come to."
Absolutely.
She's in her late 30s. She's partnered. She has other work that's fulfilling that pays her regularly every month. So she's like, "Yeah, this is kind of just like not part of my life anymore." And I'm like, "See, there are people who would like claw at the opportunity to be on TV, to be in a commercial, to work across Jennifer Garner, stuff like that. But then there's some of us that are like, meh."
So you had asked me if I was ever jealous of my siblings. And like, I love my sisters. I could not imagine being an only child, but the reason I would get jealous of my older sister growing up is because she's 4 years my senior, so her gift was always just something that was wildly different and something that I wanted. Me and my younger sister were only a year apart, so a lot of times family members kind of treated us like twins in that we got the same shirt or the same hair barrettes or the same whatever. And I just remember going, if you don't give me my own identity. And even saying that out loud now, I also romanticize like being a twin, because I went to school with a set of twins one time, and I thought it was so cool because they looked alike, you had a built-in best friend, and I think I was maybe envious of like all the attention they got. But then I got the next best thing, right? I grew up with a sibling a year younger than me, and I was mad anytime somebody would try to dress us together. So it's like, okay, maybe you don't even really want the thing that you thought you want. So you over here mad and jealous for no reason because when people treated you like twins, you hated it, you know? So it's just funny, the realizations that you have later. Like, sometimes we really are doing it to ourselves, you know?
Absolutely. I am also one of three. I'm the youngest though, and there's three of us in a row, and my sister is also 1 year apart from me. So they did the same thing, and I realized, I'm sure you know this now as a parent, if you had two kids same age, especially same gender and gender expression, you're just gonna buy the same thing, different colors.
It's convenience.
Yeah, so it's like not about you and your identity, it's just like, I'm tired. Here's your shirt, girls.
And in 4 years, you can have that shirt from Big Bro or Big Sis because you now are in the hand-me-down cycle. So fear not, it's coming back around.
Exactly. So yeah, so I was dealing with hand-me-downs. I was dealing with birth order stuff because I'm the youngest. So like they just like write it off by the time it's number 3. They're like, oh yeah, that's just the third one. Like, but not so much like that. But I remember specifically things like my brother got like those little Jeeps, like the little kid Jeep. So he would drive around the driveway. My sister got a Barbie car. And then it was my turn.
Oh.
You can share the Barbie car with your sister.
Right.
There's also another seat in the Jeep. That's true. That's true.
You know, I think I'm doing that same thing with my kids now because my first baby, she got a tattoo. I started a baby journal. I documented every step of the way. Ask me what tattoo I have for my second born.
You don't pay Remy no mind.
We don't even have a family photo shoot to prove his existence. And this third baby is like, all right, well, why would I do a journal for the third baby if I didn't do one for the second baby? So I'm like, dang, we really do start, I at least have really checked out in comparison to my first pregnancy and now.
Third one ain't gonna get no toys. That's just gonna go in a drawer. You don't need a bassinet. Just go on.
This dog bed is plump enough.
Pretty much. But yeah, same thing happened to me like that. And like, oh my gosh, this is so bad to say out loud, but my parents are married and they have been my whole life in the same household. But but I used to get jealous of my friends in school with divorced parents because they got 2 sets of presents for holidays and birthdays because it's different households. I'm like, oh man, I just get 1 present for my birthday. I wish my dad's house was here, my mom's house was here, so I get 2 presents. So stupid. But
the stupidest thing that I was jealous of was when somebody would come to class with a broken arm or leg. Never mind the injury, they got all this attention now because people got to sign the cast. So I used to wish and pray for a broken bone so that I too could have the attention. Just foolish. I'm
glad you got over that because I have seen those Lifetime movies where the women fake cancer so they get money and sympathy because they never had attention before. Have you seen any of those?
I watched a movie like that recently, and the girl was accepting all kinds of funds. Her girlfriend even thought that she was sick terminally, and I was like, ooh, girl. Watching her try to backpedal out of that was cringy.
Yeah, so cringe. So let's all try not to compare ourselves so we don't end up being the cringiest person alive.
Not gonna lie, me and my husband do get jealous of the flexibility that you singles have sometimes. Like, we literally romanticize sometimes about just like, what if we checked into a hotel and just for like 24 hours, like, we got to leave the family. And not for anything, you know, outside of the marriage, but it's just like for sleep, for rest, not to have to do anything on anybody's behalf. And I think we might try to squeeze that in somehow. Like, all right, you pick 1 month and that is going to be my gift to you. Just check into a hotel, eat whatever trash food you want. But we are so, I think, jealous, yes, of the way you can just kind of go at your own pace and not have to consult with anybody or check with anybody else's schedules. We miss it.
It is pretty great, not gonna lie. I mean, there's pros and cons to every lifestyle, so I happen to be in my single season. So yeah, my sister said she had extra JetBlue points that were gonna expire. So she's like, if you wanna come to Boston, on me, like, it's gonna expire and I have these babies, I can't just like frolic just like you, right? And I was like, okay. So she's booking me free JetBlue round trip to Boston for a few days around Thanksgiving. And then to celebrate booking a recent commercial, I told my friends in California, hey, if I book this thing, which I think I'm gonna, I got good vibes in the callback, then I'll come see you guys later this year. And then I booked it. So I also booked a flight to LA for the first week of December. Then I'll be in Texas in March for my brother's wedding. And then I told my cousins in Germany that I would see them next year. And I can do whatever I want. And then even with the flexibility of my job, since I am a freelancer, all the event companies I work with are freelance. And then all my agents, like, they work for me, really. So when I'm unavailable or I leave town, I just email everybody and I'm like, I'm unavailable on these dates. And they're like, got it. And then they'll block it and they know not to send me on auditions those days, or they'll know not to book me for events on those days. So I can literally do whatever I want just based on me. So yeah.
Love that for you.
Me too.
Something else that has come up for me a lot recently, seeing how I have restarted this train of having kids, is not comparing myself to other mothers. With my first child, I was a single mother, so that was, of course, a completely different ball game. But even now, I think I had mentioned earlier, like, if me and Joe were able to get out the house for a date night, maybe we weren't able to really like dress up or pour into our looks the way we wanted to. We were just happy to get out of the house. And instead of just comparing myself to somebody else that was able to do it a step up, I find myself repeating the phrase, they are in a different season of parenthood than you. Maybe their kids are older. Maybe they have family that lives closer. Maybe they didn't even have the kids at all with them that week, and that was why they were able to go out. What if that's the only time they've been able to go out in 2 months? But especially in this era of sharing and sometimes oversharing, where you see so much of how people date, of how they parent, I just have to remind myself often, like, you're maybe in a different season, like, and that's okay. Like, you're chasing around a toddler, you're actively pregnant, you cannot compare yourself to another mom that looks like she has it all together right now. And also celebrate that mom. If that mom has it all together right now, good for her. That is nothing to be upset about, you know?
I agree. Her life is just different, not greener.
We want to hear from you. Have you ever fallen into the comparison trap?
Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe and follow us on Instagram and on TikTok. And also be sure to tune in for next week's episode. Let's talk about it.
Quitting.